Howdy folks, my name is Reddy Opko, and welcome back to part number 2 of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. In the last part, we started things off with a daring rescue of Princess Zelda from the clutches of Agahnim, and in this part we're going to start our adventure proper by venturing on out here into Hyrule Field. I gotta say that I really love this game's version of Hyrule Field. I also appreciate that it references the original game, of course, the original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System, but it has its own sound font to it. It makes it sound really, really special, and I love the Hyrule Field theme. Unfortunately, it is going away for the Kakariko Village theme, which is also enjoyable in its own right, and has similarly been remixed in many future Zeldas. And here in Kakariko Village, we've got a couple things that we can collect right from the very beginning of the game. First off is going to be a magic bottle. You can store an item inside and then use it later. Sounds like a very useful tool in our adventures. Should be something that we will get a lot of use out of, and as soon as you've grabbed that bottle, you can go into the house right above here, talk to this kid in the bed. He'll have a little something to say. I can't go out because I'm sick. People say I caught this cold from the evil air that is coming down off the mountain. This is my bug catching net. I'll use it when I'm better, but for now, I'll lend it to you. And indeed, we get a bug catching net. There may be some other things you can catch with it, too. Thank you for the 2 at the very end of the text scrolling. I appreciate you making me press the button for 3 characters of text. I really love that stuff. Oh, I should mention also, if my rupee count is different at all, it's because I actually had to go through and re-record this episode. I had to start the game from the beginning again, which was kind of embarrassing, but, that's neither here nor there. I think I actually have a little bit more than I had before. As long as you've got 50, you should be able to come in here and get you some bombs. Bombs! You want them? They're yours, my friend, as long as you have the rupees. And indeed, with these bombs, we're going to be able to do some really cool things. It's actually amazing how much of this game is open to you right here at the very beginning. If you know where to look, there are a good number of things that you are able to accomplish before you even touch the first dungeon in the game, which is super, super exciting, by using the bombs that we purchased from the shop there. I also think it's really cool that this game doesn't require you to get any sort of bomb bag. I mean, of course, that was a concept that was introduced in Ocarina of Time, the game that came after this title, but I think it's really cool how you can just walk up into the shop and purchase explosives. It is neat because it opens up so many puzzles in the overworld for you to access right away. It's very, very good. I don't think that you can do this faster than 9 seconds, but as long as you do it faster than 15, you're going to be rewarded with your very first piece of heart. This is the very first game that Pieces of Heart debuted in. In the very first Legend of Zelda, there were no pieces of heart. You would only get the actual heart containers that were a full heart added to your meter. And then in the second Zelda, you gained life onto your life bar during certain level ups that you would get by retrieving XP from enemies. Zelda 2 was a very, very different game, and it's actually one of the only Zelda games that I have not played and or beaten. There are a couple that I haven't played, and I believe it's going to be the Oracle games on the Game Boy, and then Zelda 2, and I'm not 100% sure that I've ever actually finished Zelda 1 now that I'm thinking about it, but that's basically it. Almost every other game I've at least played in some fashion, if not completely beaten it 100%. I really love the Zelda series, and you can see, this being the very first game that I had ever played, it kind of evolved into that. Playing this game gave me such an appreciation for the series that I continued to play it throughout all of my life. When Breath of the Wild came out a couple of years ago, I was extremely, extremely excited. I'm very much looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2. I'm hoping that it will have some new mechanics and such, and I'm hoping that it will reintegrate some of the classic Zelda formula. I think that if they can manage to take the best parts of the classic formula and the Breath of the Wild gameplay, I think once you mash those two things, what you have created is a perfect game, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. Now, of course, saying things like that, you always have to manage your hype and expectations. Managing expectations is very important to a happy and enjoyable life. You don't get disappointed if you manage your Oh, there was a guard under that bush! Oh no! Oh no. That was very dangerous. That is the first time that has happened to me in me recording a couple of parts. Let's grab a magic mushroom. Go ahead and trip. This mushroom smells like sweet rotten fruit. You can give this to anyone who wants it. That sounds like a relatively decent idea, I think. I really gotta say that I'm gonna mention this about pretty much every music track. Oh, and there was a mine under that bush. I'm having some rotten luck. Rotten luck indeed. I love this game's Lost Woods theme, and of course I'm mentioning again right as you fall into the cave. Right as soon as it goes away, I have to start mentioning how much I love the track, once you can't hear it anymore, of course, but I actually like this game's Lost Wood theme, I think, more so than Saria's song from Ocarina of Time. I definitely find myself whistling this Woods theme a lot more than Saria's song, because while both songs definitely could be called repetitive, there's something about Saria's song. It's very difficult when you're whistling to jump from low to high notes because of the physical, movement of your lips. Basically your embouchure has to change, is how I like to think of it. So, when you're whistling like that, it's hard to go from low to high, and Saria's song has plenty of those low to highs. Whereas the Link to the Past Lost Woods theme is just a real chill, enjoyable time. I really do very much enjoy it. Okay, so we've got one more heart piece that we can collect before we get on with our adventure. Let me see if I can remember where exactly that one is. Lost Woods. Oh my goodness, I've completely messed up my order of things. I will meet you guys back in Kakariko Village. Okay, back in Kakariko Village, which I had completely missed before, we want to enter this grass-roofed hut. See if I can say things correctly. Yo, Dawson, this house used to be a hideout for a gang of thieves. What was their leader's name? Oh yeah, his name was Blind, and he hated bright light a lot. That is a very interesting fact to just randomly share with someone. That's kind of cool that this area was a thieves' hideout, though. You can definitely see how an underground area might be useful, and it looks like they left behind some treasure for us as well. Let's see if I can grab all of these treasure chests, remember the proper way to do it, and just like that, it's going to unlock all 4 of them for us. The way these blocks work is that once you have pushed them, they will not be able to move again. So as you can see, you can actually block yourself out of getting treasure chests if you are not cautious enough. But thankfully we were able to collect all 80 of the rupees in there, and we've got some more blue roops in here. Some roopers. That is a mechanic that was only in one Zelda game that could have been in more. And with that, that is our 4th piece of heart, which is going to increase our heart level post-haste. That is very, very handy to have 5 hearts going into the very first dungeon in the game, so getting all that done before we head over there is very convenient and welcome in my book. What I was talking about before, the roopers. Roopors are actually a mechanic in Phantom Hourglass, the DS title. The DS Legend of Zelda title is what I was trying to say. And in Phantom Hourglass, they have Roopors, which are grayscale rupees that actually detract from your total rupee count, which I think is a absolute riot, honestly. I think that is some really funny stuff right there. And it's particularly, the reason that Roopors are a mechanic in that game, and that they're not really brought back in any other games, is because that game has a movement scheme. You move by moving the stylus around on the touchscreen of the DS. So the movement mechanics are really wonky, and it's kind of difficult to get Link to go the exact path that you want him to take. So it can lead into some really funny situations, and the rooms that have Roopors I think are really hilarious in my personal opinion. So right over here we've got a witch who seems to be stirring a cauldron. If we talk to her, she mentions to us, the smell of rotten fruit. If you give me that mushroom, I can finish my brew. Heh. Seems like this is the person we need to give this stinky magic mushroom to, and she's going to thank us and tell us to come back to the shop later for something good. That sounds like a great plan to me. It's going to be something that is going to help out exponentially in our journey. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not 100% sure that what that gives us is something that is required to beat the game. I'm trying to think of any particular instance where you need that thing, and I am very much struggling to think of a specific instance. I don't think you ever actually need it, so that's kind of a cool optional thing that we will be able to take care of, and it's a tool that will help us later. And another tool that is going to help us, actually not later, but right now, I guess collecting that heart from that guard kind of makes it useless, but I might as well show you that if you head into this cave and talk to this fairy, she will soothe your wounds and comfort your weariness. There are a whole bunch of these laid out all over the game, these fairy fountains that have a full heal in them. It is definitely a remnant from the first Zelda. You know, you'd stumble across a fairy and she would heal you to full. That was one of my best memories of, so my experiences of playing the original Legend of Zelda would have been on the collector's disc for the GameCube. That's also how I played Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Zelda 2 for the first time, although I really did not mess with Zelda 2 very much because it was extremely difficult for me when I was young. But I remember finding fairy fountains in that game being such a godsend because I had no idea where to go and I was just dying all the time, so having fairy fountains that are easily accessible, always a bonus in my book. Full heals can never be discounted for their usefulness. And neither can this guy for his calmness in letting us blow a hole into one of the walls in his house and retrieve some rupees and some bombs from back here. Is going to be, again, very useful in the future of our journey, and we might as well talk to him since we're here, right?
I am indeed Sahasrahla, the village elder and a descendant of the 7 wise men. Oh, really? Dawson, I'm surprised a young man like you is searching for the sword of evil's bane. Not just anyone can use that weapon. Legends say only the hero who has won the 3 pendants can wield the sword. Do you really want to find it?
Yeah, of course.
Good. As a test, can you retrieve the Pendant of Courage from the East Palace? If you bring it here, I will tell you more of the legend and give you a magical artifact. Now, go forward to the palace.
Well, indeed, Mr. Sahasrahla. That is a ridiculous name, I have to mention right now, and I think I'm going to take to calling that boy Mr. S. You know, just like you would with a teacher that has a complicated last name, I'm just going to cut to the chase and call him S, because, man, saying Sahasrahla every single time you want to mention him, absolutely obnoxious, and he is very self-referential every time you talk to him.
Yes, it is I, Sahasrahla, indeed.
And that kind of gets tiring after a time, so let's go ahead and hop right in. This is dungeon number 1, Eastern Palace. Ooh, I'm so excited! This is a very lovely dungeon, and it's a good introduction for teaching you how the mechanics of dungeons are going to be working. Hyrule Castle kind of did a little bit by introducing us, at the very least, to the big and small keys, but the Eastern Palace here is going to take things just a little bit further and expand our concept of what dungeons are going to include. And this is actually something that I had mentioned before, that I'm re-recording this since I had to restart things. I did not grab this treasure chest beforehand, and that was a huge mistake, because that 100 rupees actually would have been really helpful to me, now that I'm thinking about it. So, yeah, definitely go around and grab that treasure chest. 100 rupees is nothing to scoff at, and we're going to be needing 600 in total for some things that are coming up very shortly in the future, like just a couple of parts in the future. So you're going to be wanting to grab as many rupees as possible. I'm glad that the game is being so generous with me and giving me all that I need. These guys are very obnoxious to deal with since they hop away from your sword, and in the very next room they are going to force you to deal with a couple of them with some closed doors. However, if you use the pots that are around the room to strike our skeleton boys, it's going to take them out in one shot. It's a lot easier than trying to hit them with your sword, I think. So yeah, just for just a moment, I'll be quiet for like 10 seconds, let you soak in a little bit of this dungeon theme.
Dawson, it is I, S. I can talk to you telepathically when you touch these tiles. Here is a hint. You can use the treasure hidden in this palace to defeat armored foes.
That actually seemed like it might be a useful hint. I also definitely did not talk to that panel on my previous go-through, because generally I kind of ignore those things. That was definitely something that I was learning during some of my failed recordings. I will admit that I got at least through the first 3 dungeons of the game, and then had some issues with the videos that were recorded, causing me to have to redo them, which, you know, I don't mind that sort of thing. That is perfectly fine. Sometimes these things happen. I was noticing that I was having some struggles, actually, in general with the game, which is surprising, because this game, I thought I remembered it pretty well, but as it turns out, you know, some things are trickier than they occasionally appear. That was kind of a mean trick. There's not really a whole lot that I could have done about those enemies being there. Hopefully that guy dropped a rupee for me dropping my bomb. No, indeed, I get nothing for my efforts. That is most unfortunate. But, you know, I think that's okay. As I was saying before, Eastern Palace is a pretty good demonstration of what a first-time dungeon is supposed to be like. It teaches you all the mechanics and does things in a very simple, straightforward way. I'm going to use the pots again to kill that guy. Trust me, you're going to want to use the pot to kill that eyeball dude, as he is much, much more difficult to kill than the skeletons. Skeletons only take 2 sword strikes, whereas hitting the, I believe those eye guys take 4 to 5 sword strikes. It's actually kind of surprising if you've played other Zelda games how strong enemies are in this game. Here's this dungeon's big key, which is nice. Yeah, the enemies in this game all take multiple sword strikes, and especially the bosses, you will find that when you have to swing on them with your sword, that they're surprisingly tanky. It is very unusual when you've played, you know, you go back and play Twilight Princess, and every single boss dies in 3 hits or 3 rounds of the go. And speaking of go, here is the bow! I love rhyming. You can shoot arrows until you run out. You can see we've got 30 arrows at the top of the screen since we've been picking them up whenever possible. And yeah, I really appreciate that the game goes out of its way to make the bow the very first dungeon item, because otherwise all you're rocking is your boomerang, and it's nice to have a ranged damage option. I believe at this current juncture, the bow is actually stronger than our regular blade, so that's actually also cool. So using the bug net and bottle that we got before, we are able to catch fairies and put them into bottles. This is very helpful as they will auto-revive you should you run out of hearts. So I'm going to keep this one in a bottle as a self-revive just in case I should beef things later. I'm going to use the other one to heal and get right on through the dungeon. Let's go ahead and equip our brand new bow and arrows, test things out. Probably going to see that I am quite the shoddy marksman, as it were, but these eyeball guys are going to go down in 1 hit if you can manage to shoot them in the eye with an arrow, which is a lot easier than trying to take them on with sword strikes. Like I said before, they take 3 to 4. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but taking them out the easier way is just what I would recommend anyways. Don't bother with the sword. Either use a pot, use an arrow, do something that is going to make your life just a little bit easier. Ooh, these guys definitely do not make your life easy. These enemies are called anti-fairies, and they are definitely anti-Link, that is for sure. When they run into you, not only do they damage you for your hearts, but they actually drain a little bit of magic as well. So those enemies can be very, very dangerous. Recommend trying not to mess with them as much as possible. I'm gonna slap these guys and keep on going. As you can see, it doesn't take too long to get through the Eastern Palace. Like I said, it's a pretty simple dungeon overall, really straightforward, nothing too puzzling yet. I would say that the whole of the first 3 dungeons are pretty straightforward. They don't confuse you all too much. These red dudes are going to take 2 arrows, but other than that, they're just the same as the green ones. And indeed, similarly easy to take down. However, not when they are in a pair like this. Ooh, that was a really clean spin attack on those little squishy guys, which, in my mind, so I always called those enemies jujubes, which is a term that I had learned from Ed, and Eddie. There's like an episode where they lead a character into an area with little, I think they're supposed to be like jelly sugar candies or something, but they lead someone in, and those enemies always made me think of that for whatever reason, so I just conflate the two in my mind. Walking through this door is going to be the very first boss of the game. I'm going to have a pop-up on screen for what these guys are named, because I cannot remember at this exact moment, unfortunately. And just as Zelda games in the future would take inspiration from, we are going to use the dungeon item that was given to us to take these guys out. All it takes is 3 shots of an arrow per enemy to get rid of them, and as soon as we've got the last one, so this is going to be kind of peculiar, but I'm going to equip the boomerang just to show you guys a cool thing at the very end here. The very last guy we're going to be taking on with our sword, so you don't need the bow at this point. You're going to switch to the boomerang. And what he's gonna do is try and stomp on us, but as you can see, he's pretty slow. We can run away with him without too much issue, so all you gotta do is wait for him to land and deliver a choice sword strike. Shouldn't be too hard. Hopefully we won't have to use our fairy. You know, that'd be pretty embarrassing when there's only 1 enemy left. So easy to avoid at this point, and he only does a half heart of damage. Not nearly as dangerous as some of the later enemies we're gonna be coming across. Although, you know, he is no slouch. This boss is no joke, and as I was mentioning before, enemies do take a good number of sword hits in this game, but taking him down is going to reward us with our second heart container for the game. Remember, we got the first one from Sanctuary, and I did it perfect on my first try. Boomerang is polishing the pendant for us. Isn't that so kind of it? Yeah, if you manage to throw it out right before you grab the pendant at the end of the dungeon, you can let it float in place, and if you're really good with the timing, you can manage to get it to polish the pendant for you. It's a really cool trick. I like that. 2 pendants remain, and as Sahasrahla mentioned, he has a gift for us once we bring this back to him, but I think we're going to hold off on that for the very next episode. I think here's a perfect stopping place right at the very end of the Eastern Palace, so I hope you guys enjoyed part number 2 of Let's Play The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. I definitely enjoyed recording this a lot more than that failed attempt, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this. My name is Reddy Opko, and I hope to be seeing you guys in part number 3.